Can you hear me? Yes? Can you hear me now? Okay, awesome. If you please take a seat, we're about to start. So I invite you all to take a seat. Thank you. I cannot hear anything. I cannot hear. Okay, I'm going to start. Welcome, everyone. Please take a seat. Where are my slides? Okay, let's start today's session. Welcome, everyone. My name is Maria Aguilar. I'm the Race to Resilience campaign manager, and it's my absolute pleasure to welcome you all today for the launch of our publication, Race to Resilience in Action, a 2024 update. The campaign was created by the UN Climate Change High-Level Champions back in 2021 to bring adaptation and resilience at the same level to mitigation and net zero, but with a very particular goal: to increase the resilience of 4 billion people by mobilizing non-party stakeholders. Now, as we are entering the end of this third year, the Race to Resilience campaign continues to make important progress. With 41 partner initiatives, over 600 members, implementing action across 164 countries, the partners are demonstrating the way forward. Collectively, they have reached a very important milestone this year by presenting action plans for protecting the lives and livelihoods of over 2 billion people, those most vulnerable to the climate crisis. So these partners are also committed to scale up their efforts with pledges that cover 3.26 billion people, getting us closer to that 4 billion people goal. And today we will get inspired by the key role that partners are playing in the Race to Resilience worldwide. And we will have also an overview of the diversity of the campaign partners and their work. So from water and sanitation to infrastructure, nature and biodiversity, and even culture. We will learn how these partners are leading the way for a more resilient and just future. Now, to kickstart our first fireside chat, Making Impact Through Culture, I'm delighted to welcome Nigar Paradari, UN Climate Change High-Level Champion for COP29. Nigar, welcome. Her Royal Highness, Princess Dana Firas, President of Petra National Trust, Climate Heritage Network Special Envoy, and Goodwill Ambassador of UNESCO for Cultural Heritage. Her Royal Highness, please join us. Thank you. And our wonderful Race to Resilience Global Ambassador, Raquel Moses, who will be moderating today's event. Thank you, Raquel. The floor is yours, and please enjoy the session.
Oh, hello, welcome, and thank you so much. She forgot to mention Igor. I came up here before she called my name. I was so excited, and I am so honored to be here with these two incredible women. So we're going to jump right in, and we're going to ask Nigar. The high-level champions have been committed to placing people at the center of climate action, as demonstrated by the Race to Resilience campaign. You took this effort a step further with the recent launch of the Impact Makers campaign. What is it all about, and how does it connect to locally led resilience?
Thank you. Yes. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Such an honor to be here at this fireside chat. And first, seeing everyone in Baku, we've been working hard to make sure that everyone is coming, and we have really global climate action, the whole community in Baku. It's great, really honor for us. So, yes, well, we had a couple of months, so basically we had less time to prepare than others, and within this time frame, what we tried to do, we tried to really put people at the center. because the moment we started, my main subject was private sector engagement on one hand, and also what I was inspired, I was seeing many people from all around the world, and it was great to see people caring about planet and doing some really amazing projects that impact their community, that impact their lives, that impact their neighborhood. And what we wanted to do, we wanted to showcase these stories, because in many cases they remain unnoticed, they remain unacknowledged, and I think that we need to showcase those stories, because when we speak about global climate action and the climate change, it's such a complex issue. It's such a tragic issue in some cases, because it's all about the lives of people and how it impacts communities from all over the world. And there is very negative feeling that we are all doomed, but then you look at these people that do things, without any acknowledgement. They just go and do it. And that's why we wanted to bring together those impact makers, and we've just started. There are even today at Marrakesh Partnership Zone, you can see those portraits of some of the impact makers and with their stories. We will continue doing that. We want to turn it into a real social media campaign to showcase these people. We see Sheila Patel, she's one of our impact makers here. It's great to see for so many years. She's doing her best on an amazing project, and I'm really honored to be with these people. So the idea behind Impact Makers is showcasing people from grassroots, to show them as an example, to show what they can do and to inspire others. Basically, that's the whole content around it.
It's so brilliant. And I think, starting from private sector, wanting to showcase, understanding the complexity and wanting to derive hope from these people who, it does seem very negative and very tragic, but then against all odds, you have so many people who are, like Sheila, continuing to do great work, and we need to elevate that so that we all have a sense of hope. So, Your Highness, the Climate Heritage Network's Race to Resilience campaign commits that by 2030, no less than 200 million people will be made more resilient to climate risks as a result of culture-based strategies. Now, Your Highness, I understand that the Climate Heritage Network has some exciting news about the next phase. What can you tell us about this phase?
Thank you very much, Raquel, and it's a pleasure for me to be here and to be here with this wonderful woman, high-level champion and really good friend. Thank you so much for this. Including the culture in the Race to Resilience was actually a breakthrough moment for us, because up until then, culture was not part of the agenda of the high-level champions. And so this is really an important moment for culture. And it makes sense in the context of the Race to Resilience, because resilience and culture they're profoundly linked. Just very, very quickly, culture embodies the frameworks, the knowledge systems, the social connections that make people able to create resilience, to survive the difficulties that are associated with climate change, loss, migration. Culture is all about the social connections, the networks that really bring together communities, and they start innovating, and they start bringing together this traditional knowledge and this know-how and this learning, and making it available for policies that make people able to survive and to thrive. And so it took a couple of years to get the campaign started, and now we are very happy that with a grant from the Mellon Foundation, we are able to really move forward in a very serious manner, to hire and to begin with programmatic work that is going to make all the difference, and to hire staff for the campaign. And I'm really proud to say that the partners with this are ICLEI, and I want to just acknowledge the executive director of ICLEI USA, Saharnaz Mirzazad, and thank you so much for being with us today. And the partnership, she's wonderful, so thank you so much. And this will be a partnership between ICLEI USA and ICLEI Africa. So you will have a North America and an Africa connection throughout this campaign, of course with a global reach. But the funds will also allow peer-to-peer exchange and to really begin to understand the impact of the resilience on local communities. You know, CHN has been trying to address the culture gap in climate policy and in climate action. And this is a very serious omission that is undermining the success of climate solutions, really, for everyone. And the same omission exists in local and regional governments. And so working with ICLEI will enable us to really reach those governments that are closest to the people that are most affected by climate change and make a difference at that level and bring in the arts, heritage, the creative industries into strategizing about climate solutions that work for people on the ground. So thank you very much for having me again.
Oh, it's wonderful. And I agree with you. That would have been a breakthrough moment because so much about culture is how we do. And that's the thing that needs to change in climate action. The culture of how we behave. But also you hear so much about culture and resilience and how communities come together after disaster and how it changes the resilience, the face of resilience after disaster. I think brilliant, brilliant breakthrough. I'm looking forward to hearing about 200 million people being made more resilient. Back to you, Nigar. And I'm in awe that we have you here, considering all that you are responsible for. So thank you for that. So as we launch today the Race to Resilience Action 2024 publication, what are some of the most important points from it?
Well, thank you. No, it's my honor to be here because a couple of months ago we met with Her Highness and we've been just discussing, how to integrate culture because climate change is something that affects everything basically. It's culture, it's health, education and all the industries. So now every COP is becoming bigger and bigger and we see all the industries and all the sectors being involved and that's how it should be. About this publication, well, yes, first of all, a couple of things from the publication that I've particularly liked. First of all, where do we stand? So it put together and shows where we stand, like with seeing power of collective action, reaching 41 campaign partners with more than 700 members across more than 150, so 164 countries. That's one thing that it showcases, this publication. Second one is really collective action, how it showcases and what kind of collective action we need to take to make the, on a grassroots level to bring this resilience to communities. And also what I also like about the publication is it's very people-centered because at the end of the day when we speak about the climate change it's all about people. It's about shaping the future that we would like to be healthier, greener, safer, and it's people-centered approach, and you have very good examples in there. So that's why I think that this publication is really showcasing, and it's a very simple language. So this is what I was complaining constantly with all these months, that we need to make this climate rhetoric simpler to make sure that people understand what we here talk about and that it matters for them also. So yes, I would like just to congratulate the whole team for working on this publication. Thank you so much, and just we are here to support you. Thank you for what you are doing.
Yes, and I absolutely agree with you. The publication is accessible, the language is accessible, but it points to concrete examples of things that you can see that are happening and things that are making progress. And so it's very, very exciting. And it's a quick read. It's 14 pages. You can just whiz through it, but I highly, highly recommend that you will be inspired. All right. So, Your Highness, can you share with us some examples on what building resilience through climate culture looks like? Any particular case that fills you with hope and excitement?
Yes. Well, I mean, you spoke so beautifully about people, and culture is people. Culture is all about people, and so you can see how intimately connected this all is. And at the CHN, we've really thought about what is it that makes more resilient communities? How can culture play a part in creating more resilient communities? And then 5 things were identified, which is supporting a multiplicity of social networks and diversity of knowledge systems, promoting both interconnectedness and local self-sufficiency, like use of traditional materials, knowledge for building, promoting equity and mobilization of values that support justice and inclusion, and then finally leveraging creativity to support adaptive learning. And the reason why I am mentioning this is because when I want to give my example, I want to just relate it back to all these factors that really create very resilient communities. And I have to apologize to the audience, but my example is going to be very biased. Not only is it coming from Jordan, my home country, but from the city from which I personally hail. But it's a beautiful example regardless. And I want to talk about Assault, which is Jordan's only World Heritage Site that is an urban living center. And the reason why I mention it is because we have had, as an NGO, as a heritage and culture NGO, a very good partnership with the local municipality in Assault to create a model of preservation of buildings that engages the local community in a very meaningful manner, builds capacity, uses local materials, and it connects very deeply, not only to the local community, to local society, but also it is an example that we're using with our partners to sort of show resilience globally. And so I wanted to say that Assault has helped really invest in a strong group of local artisans who have developed their local capacity for traditional building skills. And it's very specific to Salt because there's a yellow sandstone that is very specific only to a salt. And so they are able to deal with the stone, to deal with the wood that we have in buildings that is really deteriorating very quickly as a result of climate change. And that capacity has enabled them to work not only with us, but work throughout Jordan and in the region as well, which is really very important. SALT is also about social networks. So when it was listed as a World Heritage Site, they listed it because they called it the place of tolerance and urban hospitality. And it's a very unique city. It's very Levantine in its character and architecture. But at the same time, unlike many Levantine cities like Jerusalem and Damascus, the neighborhoods of Assault are not separate. So you don't have an Armenian quarter, a Christian quarter, a Muslim quarter, whatever it is. It doesn't exist in Assault. It is all about communities coming together, interconnecting, living in the same streets, living in the same neighborhoods. And it makes it a very strong network in terms of its neighborhood connections, its religious connections. So you have a church right across from the mosque. And these networks really support the communities. And then finally, I have to talk about arts. And so in Assault, really we brought together a lot of artists to help with local building materials. And one of the stories, and I will end with this, is we brought a young woman who is originally from Salt, who's now studying abroad, but she's using local clay to produce terracotta tiles. And she has been featured in design fairs and all sorts of things all over the world. And she has been commissioned to produce tiles using the mud of Assault for this house, and it comes out in the most beautiful beige color. And so now you have this innovation. You have modern technology with local materials by a local person being used to produce something different, sustainable, local, and engaging with the community. And so, I'm very passionate about it. I love the project, and so this is.
There is no question that this fills you with excitement. But can you imagine from what you're doing, how that can expand, and if it took root everywhere and we were able to see, using local techniques to do this historic preservation and using local materials and empowering artisans? I'm filled with excitement. I want to see this project. I want to thank you both so much for your time. I know how valuable it is, and for sharing your wonderful examples with us. Thank you both so very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and now I welcome the partners driving resilience action. So can I invite up Miss Karina Dolabella, coordinator of climate change and sustainability, Sao Paulo, Brazil. Wonderful. Karina, please. Oh, sorry. Monica Schroeder, Director of Global Advocacy at Build Change. Jose Gesti, Senior Advisor at Sanitation, Water for All. And Anshul Abbasi, Lead Policy and Planning at Climate Center for Cities, India. Welcome, my esteemed panel. Okay, so I'm going to start with Monica since I know. Can you hear? Okay, wonderful. I'm going to start with Monica. One, because I'm most familiar with her work, and Build Change has been doing some incredible things across the globe, and certainly in the Caribbean, and we're really excited about the work that they're doing. So how is your initiative leading in the race to resilience? Provide us with any kind of specific quantifiable results and examples that you can.
Yeah, absolutely. So Build Change and the Climate Resilient Housing Initiative, we've been a proud member of the Race to Resilience from the very beginning, from its launch at COP26, and it has been a wonderful journey being in partnership with all of the community. And so this year has been particularly impactful for us, some for some good reasons, some for some not so good reasons. I think it's no surprise to anyone that this last year has been really sobering in terms of the reality of disasters. We have responded to disasters in Morocco. I'm seeing the news every single day, and the Philippines has seen 6 storms in the last month, 6 major storms that are really wiping out homes. And so what we do at Build Change and as part of the Climate Resilient Housing Initiative is to advance a vision where every home is disaster resilient. And so what we are excited about and what we've been celebrating this year is that 2024 actually marks our 20th year of impact at Build Change. We were founded shortly after the 2004 tsunami and have been responding to disasters and advancing housing resilience ever since. And so this year we have a lot to celebrate. And we have, as of 2024, we've made 1.4 million people resilient through safer housing. We have protected over $5.2 billion in housing assets, and those are assets that are owned by homeowners. We own none of the assets. So this is really advancing financial stability and resilience for those living in disaster vulnerable housing. And through our microfinance programs, which are a flagship mechanism that Build Change uses to advance housing resilience, we are happy to say that over 91% of our borrowers are women. We are incredibly invested in gender equity and in advancing financial resilience for women. And there are a lot of things that we're celebrating from a programmatic perspective as well. We are bringing the strength of our Climate Resilient Housing Initiative into new markets. We've expanded for the first time into Africa. Build Change has traditionally worked in Latin America and in Asia, and this year has really marked our first engagement in Africa. We're implementing programs in Mozambique, in Comoros, in Morocco as well, and to new hazards. Build Change, our initiative, we have always adopted a multi-hazard approach to housing resilience. You need to build housing that is able to withstand a variety of disasters, because in our ever-changing world, there's not just one hazard that affects our work. And so we have launched our first program dedicated primarily to heat resilience, which we're really excited about. And that's in Indonesia. And so Indonesia being a country that's already prone to earthquakes, to typhoons, we're really putting heat front and center to try to integrate this perspective into our housing work.
Anshul, thank you so much, Monica. Anshul, can I ask you to answer the same question?
It's really difficult to hear yourself. Thank you so much for having me. I represent Climate Center for Cities from India. Climate Center for Cities was established by the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs with an intention of creating climate ecosystem. So there was a lot of piecemeal climate action which was happening across the country to synergize it. That's where we were institutionalized. And I'll be just briefly talking about the work we have done recently in terms of the three Ps, policy, plans, and for people. So we are one of the first countries globally to have a nationwide climate assessment for cities. We call it Climate Smart Cities Assessment Framework, which is based on 5 thematic areas, both mitigation and adaptation. We have energy, green buildings, waste, mobility, air quality. And from the adaptation point of view, we have urban planning, green cover, biodiversity, and water management. And I'm happy to share it started with 96 cities in 2019. The last assessment, which we recently finished, had a participation of 226 cities, which means we have data from 226 cities where we have assessed them. We don't rank cities. The idea is not to make them compete. It is to kind of bring them to a platform wherein they co-learn, they collaborate with each other, they co-create, and we categorize them. So we have 1-star cities to 5-star cities. 1-star cities being the ones which are at a very nascent stage in terms of the climate action. The 2-star cities are the ones which have some sort of data collected with respect to the theme. 3-star cities are the cities who have an action plan or identified actions. 4-star cities which have allocated budget, and 5-star cities are the ones who are monitoring and evaluating. So the reason why I shared this, because this is one of the systemic way of mapping cities with respect to climate action. And so I think that is something which we are really proud of. But as a pilot, in addition to it, moving beyond the policy and framework, we did climate action plans for 4 cities in India. It was a pilot for us to understand that how actually the whole journey of climate action which a city needs to follow, and in addition to the finance from where these would be funded. So we have done these 4 cities. I'm happy to share with you the climate action plan for 3 cities was launched just last month. We are also working on shallow aquifer management. So for around 60 cities, we are developing a shallow aquifer management plan, reverse management plan. I'm sorry, I'm taking a lot of time. But with respect to people, we have something known as Climate Practitioners India Network. We have 1,200 members across 100 cities. The whole idea of developing this network was to bring people so that they can come together, they can collaborate, they can implement climate actions. I think that's on what we have done till now, and maybe the upcoming measures I'll mention later. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thank you. Karina, same question. How has your initiative leading in the race to resilience?
Well, hello, everybody. First of all, I would like to thank UN Climate Change High Level for organizing this important event, and also for giving the opportunity to São Paulo to show our work on adaptation and resilience. Well, my English is not so great, so I am here with my angel, João, to help me, and so I will speak in Portuguese, and João is going to help me. Ok. São Paulo tem uma estratégia climática com 2 eixos de atuação, o eixo de mitigação e o eixo de adaptação.
So São Paulo has a climate strategy with 2 sectors, adaptation and mitigation.
Ambos os eixos têm planos com estratégias específicas, olhando para os principais setores e impactos, riscos e impactos relacionados.
Both of them they have specific strategies thinking about risks and impacts.
São Paulo aderiu à campanha Race to Zero e Race to Resilience da ONU em 2021.
São Paulo adopted the Race to Resilience in 2021.
E temos o nosso plano de ação climática focado em mitigação de gases de efeito estufa, atualmente em fase de implementação.
So we have our mitigation plan of greenhouse gas emissions in phase of implementation.
E o nosso plano de adaptação e resiliência climática, atualmente em consulta pública.
Our adaptation and resilience climate plan in public consultation.
Gostaria de convidar a todos que quiserem contribuir para o nosso plano de adaptação, que acessem o nosso site e possam trazer percepções importantes na construção do nosso plano de adaptação local.
I'd like to invite everyone to contribute with our adaptation plan, to visit our site and help us with this local implementation.
O nosso plano de adaptação, ele tem 5 cadeias de impacto, que são elas: zona costeira, segurança hídrica, segurança alimentar, saúde e biodiversidade.
Our plan has 5 thematic topics: coastal zone, water security, food security, health and biodiversity.
E todos esses eixos, em todos esses eixos existe um olhar específico para a justiça climática e para a infraestrutura resiliente.
So with all this access, we have a specific site for climate justice and resilient infrastructure.
O Estado de São Paulo, ele reporta anualmente o Carbon Disclosure Project e compartilha as informações com o Regions 4. São Paulo, ele é um dos membros fundadores do Regions 4 e tem sido um parceiro bem atuante no Regions Adapt, que é uma importante plataforma de troca de conhecimento, olhando para todos os desafios de adaptação.
So São Paulo is one of the founding members of the Regions 4, and it's been an active partner in Regions Adapt as well, as an important platform to empower worldwide adaptation to the impacts of climate change.
E como mensagem, olhando para tantas coisas que a gente tem para falar, eu gostaria de trazer à tona que o principal desafio da adaptação climática hoje é um olhar local. É muito difícil a gente trabalhar a adaptação num nível macro. A gente precisa estar sempre olhando para as regiões de forma única, considerando as comunidades, as vulnerabilidades locais, para que a gente possa realmente ter efetividade em ações de adaptação climática.
So with all the messages that we have here, I'd like to focus on the climate adaptation in the local level, claiming attention to the localities, to the communities and their importance into the climate adaptation plans.
Nós temos diversos programas e projetos com foco em adaptação que caminham em paralelo com a construção do plano, e eu deixo as portas do Estado de São Paulo abertas para todos aqueles que quiserem conhecer mais sobre os nossos programas e projetos e também para a troca de experiências. Agradeço aí mais uma vez a oportunidade.
So we have some parallel projects that walk alongside the plan, and I'd like to invite everyone that's interested in participating, contributing with our plans and projects. And thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Jose. Same question, please.
Thank you, Raquel. And first of all, let me thank you, the Race to Resilience, for inviting Sanitation and Water for All to be part of this panel. Thank you, Raquel. We also wish that you become more familiar with the work we do so that you can help us take our voice further. Sanitation and Water for All is a partnership of more than 450 partners working in the water supply and sanitation space. And we like to say about ourselves that we are a little bit the part of the sector that is mobilizing political will. And therefore, this year, after the successful passing at COP28 of the UAE Framework for Global Climate Resilience, which we have hugely celebrated, we've been working at the political level, at policy level, bearing in mind that in some cases, before we reach out the ground with results and we see and we count the beneficiaries, we also need to be working in the policy sphere. Because of that, we also want to thank you, the Race to Resilience, for being open to take the thinking forward and for start measuring results as well in this policy area. This is not easy, and this is something that again, we welcome the opportunity to also be able to provide results in this sphere. As I said, we are celebrating this year the passing of the new Global Resilience Framework, where we see water supply and sanitation at the forefront of climate resilience. Is indeed the first target of the UAE framework, but obviously we work in collaboration with our colleagues and partners working in health, food and nutrition, infrastructures, including cultural heritage, poverty eradication, all the sectors. We see water is a connector of resilience across all the thematic areas, and actually for us in the water community, which is a very dispersed and a strange community, climate is the element that is bringing us together. So we see ourselves as a connector, but at the same time climate is bringing us together. We have been working very closely this year with the UNFCCC Secretariat in the next task after the passing of the UAE framework for climate resilience. Right now, we are midway on a 2-year work program for developing indicators for the global targets that have been agreed. We are providing core support for the development of indicators that will help us track progress, adaptation progress, specifically in our case in water supply and sanitation. We have been working with the Secretariat as well in something very important, which is an upcoming conversation on transformative adaptation. This is at the moment a very scientific, complex definition and picture, and we're trying to bring that into the ground by providing the Secretariat with tangible examples on how that looks like. So we have provided examples on how transformative adaptation in water supply, for example, in the city of Chennai in India, transforming the whole urban water supply system, making better use of reused water for industrial purposes, etc. We have been working with something that it's a little bit of a mystery in the climate, among the climate community, which is the linkages between sanitation and climate change. To untangle a little bit and to bring some light to that mystery, we've been working with the Green Climate Fund, and we have launched the first day at COP a new guidelines from GCF guidelines on how to prepare project proposals for sanitation. From Sanitation and Water for All, we have teamed up with our partners at the Stockholm Environment Institute, and we've done an analysis on how sanitation is currently integrated into national adaptation plans and nationally determined contributions. And the result is, as we expected, only 2% of prioritized action in national adaptation plans relate to sanitation. So we are trying to activate our partnership, research and learning constituencies, private sector, civil society, so that we can move this discussion forward. I will just finish it, Raquel, saying that all this work at the policy enabling environment, we understand that it's up there, it's far away from the ground, but it is our emphasis to try to catalyze action that brings global paragraphs agreed at COPs into tangible results on the ground. And therefore, we work with our partners on the ground who appreciate how this enabling environment is helping them to deliver climate resilient solutions on the ground.
And before you finish, in 30 seconds or less, tell me what's next.
Next, we are working with something very exciting. It's a Heads of State initiative. We are working with heads of states in signing compacts, which is going to help us do what I said, like to bring global agreements into national priorities that will translate into local strategies and projects.
Beautiful. If you could please pass back to Karina, 30 seconds or less. What's next?
Well, as my colleague said, I think the challenge is to make plans into a concrete actions. So this is the big issue, and we cannot wait. So we need to act now. So I would like to thank you for the work and engagement that you promote. That is really important because we learn with each other, and that's great.
You didn't need a translator. All right, and then I'll go to Monica. Monica, tell us what's next for Build Change.
Yeah, we are launching a campaign to make housing its own sustainable development goal. And this is in the post-2030 agenda. Housing is such a fundamental driver of development outcomes, from sanitation to city-level action to health and education. So we are trying to get this campaign off the ground and really get momentum so that in the post-2030 agenda we can really drive importance to the issue of housing.
That is incredible, and that's a huge, huge goal. I'll have to change my SDG pin. But I love it as an initiative because I think it's such a fundamental, right? And lastly, Anshul, tell us for you, what is next?
Yeah, so the climate action plans, which I talked about, the 4 cities, we are moving to the next level. We are looking forward to implement this plan now. Yeah. Implement and also look at the mechanism. Same, we have initiated a project preparation facility on both ends. So we launched a project preparation facility for both mitigation and adaptation measures which have been identified in the climate action plans. We're looking forward to get them implemented on ground and also looking for the financing option. Secondly, we are developing a disaster management plan guideline at a national level, wherein we are trying to bring in entry points for climate and disaster in the national level schemes, policies and programs. So it's one of the major project which we are following, and then we are doing guidelines for climate sensitive master plans. So these are the three things which are ongoing. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you all so much. It has been such a pleasure to spend this time with you and to hear about the plans. What I love is that the plans you have cross-cutting themes, you have, vertical plans, you have location-specific plans, and all of them with accomplishments as well as future-looking objectives. Thank you all very, very much. I now hand over to Diane Picon.
Hello, everyone, and thank you so much, Raquel, for the introduction. And I know that we're almost at the end of the day, and I really am happy to be here on Health Day to talk about health and resilience. First, let me introduce to you who we are. We are Healthcare Without Harm, an international nonprofit organization that seeks to transform healthcare worldwide so that it reduces its environmental impact, becomes a community anchor for sustainability and resilience, and a leader in the global movement for environmental health and justice. One of the reasons we do this is that the health sector is responsible for nearly 5% of global greenhouse gas emissions. That is why we collaborate with the World Health Organization to support over 90 health ministries worldwide that have committed to low carbon, sustainable, and climate resilient health systems. In addition to working at the national level, we work also with Race to Zero to mobilize more than 70 non-state actors. These are healthcare institutions representing over 14,000 health facilities in almost 30 countries. These are leaders who are turning commitment into action. The world's health facilities and systems, as well as the doctors and nurses who work in them, are on the front lines of this climate crisis. They also play a critical role to enhance resilience and provide equitable care to the communities they serve. As we know and as we've heard, climate change is one of the greatest threats to human health, and we find ourselves at a critical tipping point. While everyone has a role to play in addressing this crisis, the health sector is also uniquely positioned to help lead the way. As the climate crisis intensifies, healthcare systems prioritize adaptation to effectively respond to these climate threats. Extreme events like floods, heat waves, hurricanes increasingly disrupt hospital operations, threaten supply chains, and strain emergency services. Healthcare needs to invest in climate-resilient infrastructure and services, enhancing its own ability to respond to shifting disease patterns as climate change drives the spread of vector-borne diseases, respiratory issues, and heat-related conditions. By enhancing their adaptive capacity, healthcare systems can ensure continuous care during crisis, improve public health responses to climate-related risks, and empower communities to better safeguard themselves against the impacts of climate change. And as I said earlier, the health sector itself must take responsibility for reducing its own contribution to the crisis. 5% of greenhouse gas emissions worldwide is what the sector really is responsible for. And primarily, this is through the use of energy, waste, and supply chains. Mitigation efforts include transitioning to renewable energy sources, improving energy efficiency, and adopting sustainable practices such as waste reduction and sustainable procurement. But health systems can also influence upstream industries, from pharmaceuticals to medical equipment. Implementing this diversity of strategies is important, and it's key to achieve the goal of net zero healthcare by 2050. Participating healthcare institutions to our race to zero will lead the way in bridging mitigation and adaptation efforts, as we're taking on a new commitment with the UN Climate Change High-Level Champions that we announced in New York Climate Week at the Clinton Global Initiative 2024 annual meeting. Together, we will accelerate climate action in the healthcare sector in 3 key areas. By doubling by 2028 the number of healthcare institutions on a trajectory to achieve net zero. Simultaneously, in order to scale this work, we will for the first time link the 2 key global climate campaigns, Race to Zero and Race to Resilience, effectively demonstrating how a sector can contribute to both mitigation and adaptation. And through this commitment, we will build climate-resilient healthcare around the world, protecting the health and well-being of 100 million people worldwide. This means enhancing the ability of our hospitals and health system members to adapt to the climate crisis while embracing climate mitigation and sustainability. What comes next? We have great plans, and I hope that this journey also includes you. Throughout 2024, we have been holding meetings in Southeast Asia and Brazil, and India and the US, Europe, Latin America, and Australia will happen in 2025. These events will serve as key opportunities to discuss the links between adaptation and mitigation in healthcare, deepening the sector's engagement in our net zero and adaptation work to meet resilience needs. In 2025, we will convene key implementers to focus on developing and rolling out the zero emissions and resilient healthcare learning initiatives. These regional and national communities of practice will help accelerate the pace of new pledges and ensure the effective implementation of existing commitments. And we will then also be publishing case studies, showcasing successful strategies for balancing adaptation and net zero mitigation efforts within health systems and facilities. And throughout, we will need to secure also those resources that are needed to support this critical initiative. And I hope to join us to secure a future where the health sector is a cornerstone of climate-resilient communities, enabling healthy people to thrive on a healthy planet. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we're coming to an end on a fabulous day where we launched the publication of the Race to Resilience campaign for 2024. And I am more than excited because I have seen the collective leadership of the partners of the Race to Resilience, the ambition, the collaboration, the commitment. I invite every one of you to review read, share this publication. We need your support. We need that you also help us enlarge the partnerships that are contributing to the Race to Resilience. We need as well that we grow and we better do this job of reaching the non-state actors in regards of their action, their commitments, their delivery for climate action, with the opportunity to inform, showcase the evidence, and especially drive the opportunity for scaling resilience development when we bring mitigation at the same pair level of adaptation with people at the center. We've seen today from the examples, from the leadership, from the commitments, how we are connecting across all these opportunities, building the tissue, the cohesive tissue of what it means resilience, enhancing solutions that are critical to really highlight what are the benefits to people, to the communities. Very critical, the capacity building across them. And we are growing with your knowledge, with your lessons learned. We're not only tracking people being resilient quantitatively, we're also learning. We need the enhancement of the enabling conditions, how a partnership, policy, planning, finance, and especially gender, locally led adaptation. And so this report is bringing as well that growth, that opportunity to better reflect resilience, and we look forward as well to continue working with all of you. Thank you.